Hey everybody, I'm Jen, and in this video, I'm going to talk about my midlife financial makeover. So, if you've watched any of my videos before, I talk about being in midlife, and a lot of my focus is usually on nutrition and training. But one of the things that I've not talked about yet that's really important to me and something that's been very significant for me lately is the financial makeover that I started back in January of 2024. So, when I talk about a financial makeover, what am I talking about? Two things. One, there was not a ton of debt, probably under $6,000. I've always been afraid of getting into the investing world because I just pretty much felt very ignorant of it. I didn't understand investing. I didn't understand stocks. I thought as long as I had money in a savings account that it was fine and that I was ahead of the game. And I kept hearing that that really wasn't the case. But again, I don't want to feel stupid and I don't want to feel ignorant. And so I just figured I would just let everything ride and just not worry about it and just continue life as is. And I started this practice probably, actually, I know the date. January 15th, I started doing the Miracle Morning. And if you're not familiar with the Miracle Morning, I'll link out to it in the notes below. But the Miracle Morning is a whole morning routine that you do that helps you be your best self. And I had always done like meditation and stuff like that. I kind of grew up doing that stuff, but I really had fallen out of practice on doing any of those things. And in the Miracle Morning, one of the things that you do is reading. And so the Miracle Morning consists of meditation, visualization, affirmations, reading, scribing, which is writing and exercise. And that's not in the order they give you. They use the acronym SAVERS. So silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So if you remember SAVERS, you'll get that. But I digress. My point is that I did the Miracle Morning because I just wanted to level up. Sometimes you feel like you're in a place in your life where you just want a change and you want to just be a better version of yourself. And so that's where I was at. And I was doing the Miracle Morning practice and I did my first 30 days. So I did 30 days of doing all of those things in the morning. And I realized that what if I did my meditation around abundance because I wanted to see more income in our lives. I really felt like everything was a paycheck to paycheck struggle. And what if my affirmations were around finances and abundance? What if my visualization was around finances and abundance? And what if I made use during my exercise time on my treadmill time or time that I'm spent warming up before I lift, learning about finances, watching YouTube videos? And what if my reading was about learning about personal finance? And my writing could be around exercises regarding personal finance. And that's something that Hal Elrod, the man who originated the whole Miracle Morning process, talks about, is how you could level up this process and use it to focus on specific areas of your life. And so I did that. And it had a profound effect on me. And let me tell you, if you're scared of personal finance, please take it from me. Like, I am a dyslexic whose disability manifests mostly with numbers. I mean, I was classified at a very early age. I can read perfectly fine. I do have a problem sometimes when it comes to processing dense content or clinical content, but it's always with numbers. Numbers is where my reversals will happen, where what I see is different than how I transcribe it. And so because of that, I always thought that I just wasn't going to be skilled with money and that money was always going to be something that I just could not handle. And I put up all these biases and prejudices in my head about how I could not do money. And this is not the case. You absolutely can do money. You can absolutely learn about personal finance. And if take it from me. I will outline some of the basics for you. And if you're like me and somebody who's intimidated, especially if you're a female who's been intimidated about personal finance or feels intimidated or silly or stupid because you did not take the time to learn it or you didn't think you could, let me tell you, you can. It is actually not as complicated as I thought. I made it into to be this big thing, and it's really not. I just wasn't educated about it. So I started off first with, I want to say, I'll find the book for you. I believe it's The Millionaire Mindset, or The Millionaire Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It was a book that was recommended through the Miracle Morning app, because Hal Elrod was very smart and came up with an app. And in the app, there are reading excerpts if you don't have a book. And so I read one of those excerpts and was like, this sounds like a good book. Let me go ahead and use this for my Miracle Morning. And it was a great book. And the reason why it was a great book for me is because I grew up incredibly poor, really, really poor. Like, it was a really good month when we had all of our utilities poor. Like, there were gaping holes in our floor where you could see downstairs into the crawl space poor, where there was, like, our house had one side was tar paper, one side might have had high siding, the other side had plywood poor. So I know poor, right? And of course, there's people out there that were more poor than me, but we were significantly poor. There was absolutely food insecurity. That's a whole different video. Let's not go there. I was poor, right? And so I was raised with this mindset of there are the haves and the have-nots, and we are the have-nots. And that people that had money somehow were innately bad. And I didn't realize that I had this prejudice, but I did. And that book really brought that out, like, loud and proud in front of me. Jen, this is where your mind is getting in your way. This is where your defeatist attitudes and behaviors are getting in your way. And it's just time for that to stop. Let's just stop now. Stop being silly. It's time to change. And that's a fantastic book, especially people, if you have any of those biases, especially if you feel like people that have money somehow are mean or undeserving or whatever. It's a story you're making up in your head. It's an absolute story you're making up in your head. That book was profound for me. So that became part of my Miracle Morning process. And along with that, I found a few meditations on YouTube about financial abundance. And then I started listening to podcasts and I started taking courses. So NGPF, and I'm just writing it down so I don't forget for you guys. NGPF is an organization that is designed to bring financial literacy into schools. And as a teacher, I could take those classes for free. And I started taking, like, the introduction to investing, behavioral economics. All these classes I started taking through NGPF because they're designed for beginners to, like, start from square one so I can educate myself, because I became dedicated that I was no longer ever going to let fear stop me from learning about personal finance. So the Miracle Morning, taking classes, and then I started listening to podcasts on my way into work. And so the way into work, I will listen to something that educates me, that betters me. On the way home from work, I'm going to listen to something that's actually more for entertainment because I just need to decompress. So my mornings have gotten to be very productive. My favorite podcasts to listen to that have to do with money in the morning is going to be the Rich Habits podcast with Robert Krook and Austin Hankowitz. They're great at just explaining the benefits to investing and kind of bringing it down to edible nuggets of information where you can really begin to understand everything. And you could start at the very beginning of their podcast if you want. I didn't. I started, I would say, probably 6 or 7 months ago, and they've only been in it for about 2 years. And then sometimes when I'm bored and I want something else to listen to in the morning, I'll go back in their catalog and listen to some of their older podcasts. But it's a fantastic podcast for financial literacy. On top of that, there's also the Money Guys on YouTube. They are fantastic for breaking things down, and they actually have this process called They have an order of operations called the FOO, the Financial Order of Operations. So if you ever feel overwhelmed with like, what do I do first? There's actually an order that you can go in there. So all of these things help to educate me and start my financial makeover. And during that time, I also really got heavy into the points and miles game, earning points and miles towards travel, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want to do all these things, but I want to do I want to learn about personal finance and I know I need to invest. I don't have a lot of money to invest. So if I do investing, then in my mind, and again, this is my own limited belief system, I'm thinking that if I invest money, I'm not going to have money to go away with my family. And my kids are getting there, like they're teens now. I don't have a lot of time. I feel like that pressure, like this lack of time that I have with them. So I started doing the points and miles game also. So that way I can still have trips with my family and pay very little. And at the same time, I can start investing and I could start educating myself about my investments. And so it's not even a year later, but I can say that I started the points and miles game before the investing, financial literacy part of it. But I have earned and spent, I would say, I haven't looked at my numbers recently, but I easily can say I've earned and spent over 700,000 points and miles for trips. And we've done trips to Disney World. We're doing a trip to San Diego. We have done multiple trips to Delaware, lodging completely free. All those trips that I mentioned to, like, for example, Orlando and San Diego, flights, hotels, that's all taken care of. So I was able to still do some fantastic stuff with my kids in an economical way while I'm learning about financial literacy. The pressure that I'm feeling, and I think this is why I think it's important to put out there, is like beyond having a 403B, when I started my job, I just thought that's all you needed. I was one of those people that, who thought that when you opened an IRA, you're good. I didn't know that you needed to, when you open an IRA, that is like, okay, I open an account. Now I need to put the money that's in that account in an investment basket. And there's so many people that make that mistake too, where they open an IRA, but they never invest the money in the IRA. So if you invest $300,000 over the course of a 20-year career and it's not invested, you only have $300,000, where as opposed to that, you could have 1.5 million. So it's really important to try and take the bull by the horns and really educate yourself about financial literacy. Because honestly, some of the investors that are out there, like as a teacher, I feel like we get preyed upon by certain investment companies. And I'll go into that in a different video. But I'll get to speak for myself. I was largely ignorant and I wanted somebody to do the work for me. And when I let somebody do the work for me and I don't know the process myself, it's very easy for me to let things slide that I shouldn't. So where am I at now? I have taken that 403B and I rolled it over. So it was with a certain company that had very high fees. So I was wondering why my money, once I started learning about investing, I realized that this money that I started investing since year 2000 was not growing the way I wanted it to grow. So it took over a year for me to get the money out of the company that I was invested with into a Vanguard account, because Vanguard has very low fees. And so that way I could make more money, because the other company was taking so much out in fees. It was eating away at any earnings that I would have, and my money was growing slowly. And from the moment that I took my money out of that 3B and put it into a new 403B with Vanguard, my money started growing right away, very quickly. I'm so happy with that. I also opened a deferred compensation plan, and that money is invested in the S&P 500. And if you do nothing else but invest money in the S&P 500, you're great. Like, you're fantastic. It has, on average, a return rate of 10% around a year. But I think I just was watching the Money Guys break down I think over the course of 20 years, the S&P 500 had 100, I want to say 189% return. Yes. So the S&P doubles every 7 years. So any money you put in year one should be double that by year 7 or more. Again, I'm learning. I could be saying something that's completely inaccurate and I'm fine with that. I'm learning. But my point is to kind of demystify this for you. If you are like me and you are scared of investing and it seems so overwhelming because there's so much to learn, there really isn't. Okay. If you just start off with looking up for investing 101 kind of classes, start listening to the Rich Habits, start watching the Money Guys, it will start to come to you. The other thing too, fantastic book, probably the best book I have ever read. Now I'm 4 books in now on personal finance. The Simple Path to Wealth. I forget his name, but I will link it down in the comments below. The Simple Path to Wealth, the most accessible, easy to understand investment book I have ever read. It's purely wonderful. And it was actually recommended by the instructor of my very, very first personal finance class, an investing 101 class. So Simple Path to Wealth, please, please, please consider reading that book. If you're scared about investing, don't be. Just tune in. I'm here to help. Again, I'm learning. I'm sure I'm going to say things that are accurate or wrong, but I'm doing better. And that's the whole deal. I'm doing better and I'm eager to learn and I'm making, my money is now working for me rather than me constantly just putting money in a savings account and only making 3 to 4% on my money. I have now money invested in index funds, different types of index funds where they're making money. And I just mentioned index funds in case you don't know what it is. Some people are afraid of investing in the stock market because they hear about market volatility. That's when the market goes up and down and up and down. When you invest in an index fund or index, you are investing in a whole basket of funds. Like the S&P 500 is an index of the top 500 earning companies in the US. So you are investing in all of those companies. So investing in 500 companies is going to be a lot less volatile than investing in one. The path is going to almost always go upward. Sure, it's going to go up and down, but it's going to continue to make that progress upward. So index funds are always going to be the safest bet for you to invest in, and especially to start your path in. So if you only invest in the S&P 500, you are going to make great gains. But I would urge you, read A Simple Path to Wealth. Check out the things that I link out in the description below and start your personal finance journey. I know it can be really scary. Don't let it throw you off. Just get in there, get it done. Because in the end, if you do this right, and if you're somebody who's in their 20s looking at this now, you can retire in your 40s. You can have financial freedom. And financial freedom means that your investments are now paying for your life expenses where you don't have to work if you don't want to. So I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't understand what financial freedom was. So I learned all of these things by my financial makeover start with the Miracle Morning, and I'm still learning. And, if you like this content and you're interested in hearing more, please give me, a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.